welcome to a special 2025 playoff edition of the Tectonic Takes podcast. It's actually been kind of fun being in the sidelines, and I know that's controversial as a San Jose Earthquakes fan. We're a little bit bitter about not being in the playoffs, but there's been some pretty fun matches here and some great matches to come. So in the black and gold corner from the star-laden streets of LA, the visiting team got Celso representing LAFC. Celso, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you and everybody that's watching. LAFC is ready for another playoff run. We're going to Vancouver. I'm going to be in Canada. Happy to be here. Typically, you would be seeing Eric Holstrom here, my partner. We do the Section 128 LAFC podcast together. But tonight you got me, and I'm happy to do this program with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I've had some conversations with Eric, and he hyped me up for you, Celso. We're happy for you to be here.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, and then in the white and blue corner from British Columbia, where you can see beaches and mountains in the same viewpoint, representing the home team, Vancouver Whitecaps, we've got Angelo. How you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, third straight year in a row, LAFC Vancouver meeting. It's going to be a tough one again, but I can't wait to watch it on November 22nd.
Yep, and of course, it's been a big weekend that just passed, not just for playoff soccer in the United States, of course, many levels, including NWSL, the big upset for Gotham over KC Current and USL. But the biggest headline was the Canadian Premier League Championship, the Snow Classico, the bicycle kick goal. Angelo, what an incredible moment for Canadian soccer, right?
Oh, definitely. And I'm actually based in Calgary, so Calgary are my home base team. So to see them lose in a final again, I know they won last year, which was amazing, but 2 out of 3 years losing in a final, that was a bit of a heartbreaker. But yeah, yesterday's game was a toss-up in that snow. That was the ultimate Canadian soccer match ever. 2 inches of snow. There was no tactics. It was literally a battle. I'm glad they got to clean the field like after 90 minutes, but yeah, what a crazy game. It'll be one to remember for a while.
Yep. And it was a memorable game just seeing the clips and the highlights that I saw. But now shifting gears to the Major League Soccer conference semifinals with a bit of an international break, of course. But looking at the field that remains, you look at the Eastern Conference matchups, there's some clear favorites in those ties. Looking at Inter Miami, looking at Philadelphia Union. But it gets murkier in the Western waters. Maybe West is best in terms of entertainment value. But while Minnesota United versus San Diego FC is very intriguing, I think the most exciting matchup we got here is LAFC versus Vancouver, and we're going to dive into all that. We're going to go into each position group from the starting players. We're going to go into the bench options and then the coaching battle. And then Abram and I, we're going to give our opinions as to who we would give the edge to, LAFC or Vancouver Whitecaps. And if you disagree with any of our takes, feel free to leave a comment down below or find us on social media. So without further ado, we will start with the defensive unit, goalkeeper and defense. So whether it's a back three, back four, back five, include them all with the goalkeeper. We'll start with the Vancouver Whitecaps this round, and then we'll alternate. So, Angela, tell us a little bit about your defensive unit.
Well, this year was actually one of the good years for the Whitecaps on the back end. They finished actually with LAFC as one of the best teams in the league for goals against conceded. I think it was 1.1 goals conceded average per game. So that was amazing. Takioka, the starting goalkeeper, he finished MLS with the most clean sheets with 14. I know LAFC, Hugo Lloris had 12. So almost an even match up there. And then, what was it, maybe a week ago, Tristan Blackman was awarded MLS Defender of the Year. He had a solid year. He was a brick wall. He was one of the big differences why Vancouver had the year that they had. They also finished, which was interesting. I don't know if it was coaching tactics, which we'll get to later, but they had the best goal differential in MLS with plus 28. So the combination with Takioka and their defensive unit, which they mostly played most games like with a back four, I thought that made a bigger difference compared to years past where they had a back three. I thought their wing backs helped out a lot to help out their defensive struggles from years prior. It was just, yeah, I'm still shocked to this day how Vancouver performed at the back end because I haven't seen them play that defensively since their probably existence in MLS. So it was a huge turnaround for them this year.
Yeah, I noticed in the game that clinched progression to the next round, it was a center back partnership of Bilal Halbouni and Rapriso and Bogue. So who would Tristan Blackman potentially take the place of?
Probably, that's a tough one because both are young players. I know Priso, he scored the tying goal against Dallas there to in game two there to tie things up, and then eventually win in the penalty kicks there. But it's a tough call. We'll see what Jesper Sorensen has in his mind going forward here, and I know there's not too many defenders that are called up for international duty, but the way the Whitecaps have been falling to injury, I'm just crossing my fingers through this international window. Nobody suffers any injury, so it's almost like to be announced to see what the lineup will be against LAFC on the 22nd.
Yeah, so definitely some moving parts there, particularly in the center back position. I know that when I went to see Vancouver Whitecaps versus Sporting Kansas City this past summer, I was very impressed with Edir Ocampo from what I saw from him. And I know that one of the unused subs from that game, JC Ngando, he can play a variety of different positions as well. But we'll talk more about him maybe later. But how about the LAFC defensive units? Also,
Yeah, so of course you have Hugo Lloris in the back there. He's been solid for us. I think, he hasn't been stellar. He's, by no means the same Hugo Lloris that he used to be. Penalty kicks is still his kryptonite. He's not a very good penalty kick defender. So if the game ends up in penalty kicks, huge advantage to the Whitecaps, I believe. On the defense, it's been a little bit of shuffling given the long-term injuries to some of the defensive players. Two of them actually. First off, Aaron Long, which went down mid-season. Of course, our captain, and Igor Jesus, which played as a six on system, almost like a third, defensive midfielder slash center back. So he was definitely part of the defensive setback. So now you have players stepping up. Like of course, Eddie Segura has been there for a long time. He's been here for a long time, and continues to kind of carry the load there defensively for us. The fullbacks, I think it's more worthy to talk about when we talk about the defense, the midfield for LAFC, because those guys are really midfielders. They morph into defensive players when they have to be, but the defense is really Tafari on one side of the field. Actually, Tafari sometimes plays centers, but and then the other center back that you saw is Ryan Porteous, a new pickup. Scottish man, has been playing really well for us since his arrival. Really replaced Aaron Long, and has sort of taken over that position there, composing that three center back for LAFC. So it's morphed around, over the year, and now it seems like we found some stability, but there's some leakage there. So I expect this series to be a little bit more open and. Defensively, I do believe the Whitecaps a little bit of an edge, especially because they're going to be playing at home.
right. And with Eddie Segura, correct me if I'm wrong, he's the last of the first LAFC team to play in MLS, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that? I missed that. There was a little bit of a scratch there.
Was Eddie Segura, he's the last remaining original LAFC player, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he is the last one, of the OGs. He's been there for a long time. Another one is Mark Dos Santos, right? He's a coach, but he's been there since the beginning of the times, even though he's been with the Whitecaps for a little bit. But Mark Dos Santos is an original LAFCer, so is Razov. So it's interesting when we talk about coaching because Mark is going back to Vancouver, right? And he is kind of bringing this whole story of failure with him, and it could just become a much bigger story if he ends up winning. So, but yeah, Eddie Segura is indeed the only player left since 1998.
Yeah, that is incredible. It's nice to have that little bit of connection.
Steady Eddie,
I'm
as
sure
we
it
call
would
him.
mean a lot for him to lift the MLS Cup. So, Abram, do you have any questions regarding the defense for either of these teams?
So I had a question for you because say 5 years ago, if somebody said that um, Hugo Lloris would be compared to Takaoka, and they'd be considered around the same level, people would think you're crazy, right? The World Cup winning goalkeeper, and obviously he comes to LAFC with a huge pedigree. Are you disappointed with the levels that he's at? Because I think that, obviously a great keeper at times, one of the best keepers in the world, but are you disappointed with how he is on the week to week level?
I've seldom disappointed with Ugo. I thought he's sometimes has looked, I don't call it weak, but he's shown his age, maybe, and he's had some failures here and there, especially on the road. Again, he's been solid at home, and I can't say he's been bad in any way other than just here and there. He's our captain now, so there's the leadership component there, and I didn't know Lloris at his peak, but I always felt he was an even keel kind of player. And I think what's missing for him is a couple of titles, and he's missed a lot of them with LAFC. So if this ends up being a title run for him, my disappointment will be even less with him. But I think he's done what he's supposed to do. And to the comparison, look, he came in as a non-designated player, not making a lot of money, and just put the work in, and shows up and does his job. So I do believe he's a veteran now, and he's in a different part of his career, just like Roman Burki in St. Louis, right? But he's the remaining last, and he's part of a greater schema, and I do believe he sees this as a path to the next level. So yeah, I'm very happy with Loris, and I really hope he sticks around even next year.
Ivan, if you don't mind, I have another question for Angelo.
Of course.
So Angelo, on kind of the flip end of that, Vancouver has had a weird trajectory in this league where when I'm facing Vancouver in like the few previous years, I'm like, okay, this is a team that we have a chance against. San Jose being a weaker team, I go to Vancouver and I'm never like, oh, this is like a unwinnable game. And this year, you guys showed us, your levels. But what is it like, at this moment, this season, with how good you guys have been, being compared to a team like LAFC, where you're looking at this game and with the records, you guys have a slightly better record even. What's it like to have confidence in your team in such a big stage of this tournament?
Well, first of all, like Vancouver, like they've always been the middle of the row kind of payroll team. They're not the ones making the big transfers, except for Thomas Muller, even though that was a free transfer, and we'll get to that, and he's not making much money. But they've just been a team that's dealt with adversity all year. I know they're going to have to do the talking on the pitch, but this year's like up to this point, they've missed key players every single week. They're Ryan Gauld, Brian White, 16 goal scorer out of the lineup. Ryan Gauld, the captain. I was actually, funny enough, at that game March 3rd against Montreal when he went down with injury. And since then, he's just been coming off the bench. But I think just Jesper Sorensen, just a new, different mindset in the locker room. And then with the addition of Thomas Muller, he seems to be embracing life in Vancouver. He seems to be bringing that winning attitude, like losing is not an option, which Vancouver never really had that seriousness, I guess, maybe in the dressing room in years past. And I think that goes back to having Vanni Sartini. I loved him as a coach, but he seemed maybe less of a more serious coach. I don't know, raw, if you want to say that. Compared to Jesper Sorensen, he seems to be more serious. And I think the players realize this year it's almost kind of now or never with this kind of group, because we never know. MLS, once your players start playing good, there's teams from Europe or South America, they're going to poach you either way, right? That's just kind of the cycle. More so for the Whitecaps, just because they're not a big budget team, right? So when they have the opportunity to sell a player, they're going to. So I think this year, I think it's just a collection of everybody coming together and kind of maybe finding lightning in a bottle.
So, Abram, do you feel like you know which of these two teams have the edge defensively?
I mean, defensively, when you have Takaoka performing like he is, and you have the MLS Defender of the Year, you can. I can't like not give them the edge. I think that we're gonna get into why LAFC has more strength in other places after this, but in defense at least, definitely have to give it to Vancouver.
Yeah, well said. Similar reasons there. I do think that
The only
LAFC
problem
have the
is the office
personnel
to
that
Tracy.
they can step up.
Sorry. That was a joke. The only
Yes,
problem is the office they're
and
going to
with
face,
some of
which
their
is we'll talk
fullbacks,
about it.
as yes, with Celso mentioning that the fullbacks are more operating as wingbacks and can be qualified more as midfielders, I think that transitions well into talking about the midfield components of these two teams. So, Celso, tell us a little bit about what they bring to the table.
Yeah. Let's start with newcomer Jailson. He came in from the EPL and he was injured a long time, but it's a Brazilian, fellow Brazilian like me, and has kind of brought a lot of quality to the midfield position. He's playing the six. He's essentially was brought in to replace Igor Jesus, and this is what LAFC does. This is the kind of depth they have. If someone goes down, they go to the European market to pick someone up opportunistically, like Jailson, someone that had success at Palmeiras but was down because of injury and was looking for a new opportunity. MLS is the perfect place for that kind of player, and LAFC has been great at getting guys like that. Neil Guinness, technical director, has a lot to do with these arrivals, such as Jailson. But beyond him, you have a new U.S. men's national team player, Tim Tillman, which was called up today. He's a great two-way player and has been, probably our best player without the ball, which is hard to measure, right? And you could see his play and his influence when he plays. He's definitely a big part of LAFC's system, especially in the midfield. The fullbacks, as I mentioned earlier, they can be retracting back in a 5-back as needed. But for the most part, you're going to see Ryan Hollingshead on one side, going forward, trying to score goals, and Seri Palencia on the other side as well, which is he's becoming a better crosser now, in the second, third year. But still, that's the weakness of this midfield. You have so much talent in the middle, but you can't really service the ball very well. We've never been able to do that with the fullbacks that we have. I'm missing one midfield. No, if we can talk about Andrew Moran or someone that can plug in there on that mid. But for the most part, I'm sorry, Marky Delgado, which we got from our rivals, LA Galaxy, and it's been a great addition for us. And that really composes LAFC's 5 midfielders, if you may. With the 3 main ones being Jailson in the middle, Tillman on the right, and Delgado on the left. So Delgado's been excellent. I can't believe the Galaxy let him go. It's insane. I do believe I don't know much who is actively playing for the Caps right now to give the edge. So I look forward to hearing from Angelo, who they have, in order to give you kind of more of an assessment who has the edge there, because the midfield's been a kind of a give or take for LAFC this year.
Yeah, Tillman now for the Thanksgiving dinner, it won't just be his brother Malik bragging about his U.S. men's national team call-ups. Timothy Tillman will get to share in that experience late November when they reconvene. And Abram and I are perhaps a little partial to Jailson. He sounds like the Pokemon evolved form of our old friend Judson at the Sounds of the Earthquake. So we love a Brazilian midfielder with
Judson's,
Jason
yeah,
in his
man.
name.
He was the man.
Yes. So, Angelo, you have a UN's men's national team player in your midfield as well. I guess we could start with Sebastian Berhalter, and you can continue from there.
Yeah, what a year for him too. He made MLS's best starting 11 this year, and also this year I didn't even totally forgot about it during the CONCACAF Champions Cup. He was named to the best starting 11 there too, so it was a massive year for Berhalter. I couldn't say enough about him. He actually led the Whitecaps in goal contributions this year, 8 goals, 16 assists, and he started. Yeah, so he put up massive numbers. And he was a big reason he helped, USA in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. There, he had a valuable role during that time too. Yeah, he started. He was on a team that has suffered a lot of injuries. He was relatively healthy this year. He's out of Vancouver's 44 games across all competitions. He played in 38 of them, so to have him in the lineup was a big factor. again, I don't know if it comes down to coaching or different tactics, but the breakout year by him was a bit of a surprise. He always knew the talent was there. Obviously, his father was the coach of the U.S. men's national team, so you always knew like he had like he had soccer IQ, right? It was just about having the talent, letting his feet do the work on the pitch. But yeah, what a breakout year for him. And then on the defensive side in the midfield, uh, Pedro Vite, or sorry, not Pedro Vite, went to Pumas. Andres Cubas, solid defender. He's just one of those guys. I think he'll be a difference maker against LAFC. Just he doesn't get really caught out of position that often. He's tough on he's a tough tackler. Which is gonna hopefully not get any cards against LAFC because Vancouver seems like the few times in big matches, must-win games, we're getting a red card or a yellow card. Not blaming the referees for that. It's just sometimes undisciplined cards happen. But so Kubas is going to be a big factor in the middle of the pitch. And then we've been playing with one striker, so we've been having Thomas Mahler, our strikers, kind of playing attacking wingers or attacking like midfielders. Thomas Mahler's been in the middle. Emil Sabi, who was sort of like our kind of the backup to Brian White. He's been playing on the wing. He's been kind of listed like as a forward or attacking midfield. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how the middle of the pitch is going to be dictated on the 22nd there because with LAFC's strong defensive unit and then with one attacker forward, it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to get the service he can or not. So it's going to be quite a matchup. So we'll see what happens.
Abram, any questions before I'll give my verdict first this time?
Sure. I mean, I think it would be more valuable for me to ask each other about how they think they'll fare about against the other team's midfield because that's the department that'll be facing each other directly. Um, so how do you feel? Because you seem very confident in your personnel, and obviously Vancouver has some strong players. They're missing Pedro Vite, who you've obviously would be aware of. That's a big loss, but there's still the personnel that speaks for itself. How do you think you guys are going to do?
I'm nervous. I think this is going to be a really hard game. And yes, you're right. I think the midfield is really where the battles are going to be, the individual battles are going to be defined and won. One of them would be, for example, the fullbacks getting too exposed and getting balls in their back. Even with the three backs, sometimes I'm not too convinced that we can hold an attack when Ryan Hollins that is a third offensive player for us. So it's just it is there's a lot of opportunity to attack LAFC if the fullbacks are up. So there's some erratic play in that midfield that allows the other team to create counter-striking opportunities, right? But you got to be disciplined and you got to recognize what those opportunities are, right? Because we're attacking with numbers as well. So you have to be able to break the attack and get going and exploit those fullbacks. So yeah, I'm very confident, but I think Jasper is studying some tape and he will know how to attack LAFC and win some individual battles in the midfield.
Angelo, obviously, the Celso has big things to say about your midfield. Does that translate as confidence to you, or do you know the real story?
No, it's gonna be tough. Like Celso said, like it's gonna be come down to individual play. It's almost don't want to say like it's a game of inches like football, but it really almost is like a couple mistakes here and there. Especially like Vancouver, an opponent against LAFC, you make a few mistakes. Those are LAFC is one of those teams in MLS where you make a rare mistake, they're going to counter and most likely cash on you and find a way in your own back of the nets, which is going to be difficult. And LAFC all year, I think they have only suffered 4 away defeats on the road in MLS play. So I know MLS is like a home base kind of league where home teams have the bigger advantage, but LAFC, they've only lost 4 times out of 17 games. If this game goes to penalty kicks, it's anybody's game. And I forgot to bring it up with Takioka. I'm not blaming him because it's tough to stop a penalty, but he's only 1 for 5 for stopping penalties. So that's
Could
what
be a
scares
long
me. Like,
penalty
it's almost
decision.
like Vancouver has to win this game. Yeah, we don't want this, like, on Vancouver's sake, don't want to go to penalties. And Hugo, I think he has the advantage with that. And home team, all the pressure on you, especially being the higher seed, all that, like, that's definitely not the position you want to be in. So I think, yes, Vancouver should be favored to win, but it's not going to be as easy as maybe some. I wouldn't say Whitecaps think it's going to be easy, but I think it's really a toss-up game. And yeah, like, just going back, I think the battle in the midfield is going to dictate the game here.
Yeah, that's definitely the area where, as an outsider who doesn't really watch either team, I feel like you guys are more even in that department than the other departments. I think it's overall pretty even, but that area is going to be like I can't make any predictions about how that's going to go.
And as an MLS sicko who does follow most of the teams in Major League Soccer, because I just like to watch games all the time because sometimes I have no life. I agree with Abram. So there you go. So regardless whether you watch one MLS game outside your club or 50 of them, like it's really tough to call. But since attacking midfielders are definitely more true midfielders than wingers, Thomas Muller is the tiebreaker for me. I think Vancouver gets the edge, but this next category is probably the most one-sided. But since you didn't talk about Ali Ahmed with the other winger in the previous category, you can lump him in with your striker in the forward department, Angelo.
Yeah, what a surprise he was. Got called up to Canada's international window here the next 2 games coming up. He's had 9 assists. I love his speed he brings. Just the speed on the pitch is just a different factor. He's it's just something new. Like like previous years of the Whitecaps, it just kind of seemed lackadaisical, like just kind of going through motion. But Ahmed, like, he's driving forward and pushing the pace, and which is really what this team really needs to do to be successful. And then his Canadian partner that got called up too, Jaden Nelson, bit of a slow start since I can't remember how many goal contributions he put up there that opening game against Portland. But then since then he's cooled off, but he's still an important factor too. Same as Ahmed, he just plays wide. He's got the speed, he's got the skill. Hopefully he can set up one of the players with Mahler, and we'll see if Brian White's going to be fit or not. But yeah, up and who's
Chivas product.
pardon?
The Chivas product.
The Chivas product, yeah, yeah.
Daniel Rios.
Daniel Rios, yeah. I didn't have high hopes for him coming through. Like, it's just, like, I'm not crapping on MLS players, but, like, their finishing is not like in Europe, right? Like, it's just, he's had his opportunities. He'll bag a goal here and there, and he's done a serviceable job. Like, he's not going to be Brian White. He's not going to replace him. He's not going to replace, Thomas Muller on the goal department, but he's a servable forward. He can hold up the play a bit. He does what he needs to do. So, I think if they just stick to their game plan, what they've done up to this point, I think they'll be okay. But then again, it's the playoffs. Anything could happen, as we've seen. So it's really, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting battle. Even with the back three LAFC have, I still think Vancouver's going to have a hard time trying to break down LAFC's back line and the goalkeeper. Because, like I said earlier, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. Even if them playing on the road, is still going to be hard to get a goal past them.
Yeah. So now the moment we've been waiting for. We know how good two of these forwards in particular are. Celso, as someone who is a week in, week out observer, I would love you to describe how fantastic they've been.
I know. I'm sure you know that we're talking about two guys. They're, of course, not from the United States. We're talking about Nathan Ordaz and Mathieu Chonier. Of course, I'm just kidding. But yeah, look, these guys can actually contribute offensively, especially Nate the Great Ordaz. Brand new contract, been playing really, really well on the wing there. Taking the position away from David Martinez, the Venezuelan wonder kid, which was supposed to be a lot better than he's been for us, and sort of been relegated to the bench there and not playing many minutes. Chonier, another late arrival, has been really good in the midfield, but he's technically kind of like a tweener and has been playing offensively more than defensively for us. But yes, everyone wants to talk about who? The dynamic duo, Sonny and Boanga. And here's the thing that gives us the edge versus Vancouver. In order to stop LAFC, you have to stop and slay a two-headed monster. Whereas LAFC just has to stop Thomas Muller, technically, in order to basically make them into a regular team. So the burden of beating LAFC is twice as big now because they finally found Denny Boanga's partner in crime, and they've been excellent together. I don't know if I recall another duo. It's definitely in Major League Soccer that's been so effective since they've linked these two guys up. I mean, the trends have been amazing. I don't need to repeat them here. Offensively speaking, the goal contributions are top of the league right now between the two of them, and it really is tough to stop a team that does not want the ball. They want to play with the counter striking like LAFC, and they want to play in extremely fast. However, if you allow Sonny to have the ball like he has, and he does his thing on top of the area, he's lethal. He's been proven to be a lethal striker, someone that I never even imagined to be that good in terms of his finishing. So, and then on the other side, you have someone that is athletically more gifted than 99.9% of this league and can beat you on a 1-1, and he's Danny Boanga. So it's really hard to stop these guys, and that is why I am confident they are the best attack in this league. And I know that Miami has Messi, but Messi's alone as well, right? And they don't have a duo, and Suarez has proven to be a little bit over the hill here. So by no means the duo is what makes this, though. Without them, if one again gets knocked out, LAFC would really struggle in this game. So it's very important to keep them both ineffective in order for Vancouver to have a chance here. But yes, it's really hard for any defense to stop these guys. It's going to be an all-out effort in order to stop it. But I believe the coaching staff will have something for LAFC that we haven't seen before this year.
Yeah, so this one's a no contest. With all due respect to Vancouver's attacking options, LAFC wins this category. The fact that they were tough to start, Abram tough to stop anyway, with Vela and Rossi, they've upgraded this form. So your thoughts on how incredible these two players are? We got to see them and Levi's destroy the Earthquakes defense.
You're asking me? Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously very strong players. I think that that was one of Son's first games, if not the first. No, it wasn't his first, but it was very early on. So the connection wasn't completely there, though they did get like a tap in across the goal. Obviously very strong duo. That's very scary. But I am curious if I can ask a question of each of the two guests. Angelo, I want to ask you. Your offense comes into this game as the underdog, but obviously you guys are here for a reason. You're not nobodies. What ways do you see you guys getting goals? Like what's the tactic? What kind of goals are you looking at? Like knockbacks, like in the box headers. Like what are you anticipating?
From what I've seen from the Whitecaps this year, they've been good on set pieces. I think that's going to be a key factor. If LAFC are going to give the ball away like foul or close to the box, this and that, I think that's the number one way Vancouver is going to find a way in the back of the net. I think the other way is it's going to be tough, like to catch LAFC on the counter, but I think just out advantaging them going forward on a break or whatever. I think that's another way they could be able to beat them. And other than that, I think it's going to be tough. Like I don't know. I'm almost having like nightmares just because of the last.
You got the script completely correct.
Yeah, because the last two playoff games, just been shut down. Even we were able to beat LAFC last year in the 3-game series on home field, 3-0. But that was game 2. LAFC were already up 1-0. I think this is a completely different story because It's a 1-all game. It's a trip to the West Final, so it's going to be different. But yeah, Vancouver, it's going to be a true test to see, and especially how healthy Ryan Gauld is going to be, because he's just been coming off the bench playing like 10, 15 minutes here and there. But the previous 2 seasons, he's been their leading goal getter and assist man. So if he could play a full shift or maybe the full second half, maybe he changes the tempo of the game in the middle of the pitch. But I think that's going to be a key factor too, is having Gauld and Berhalter in the middle of the pitch. If we can have them both at the same time, maybe some opportunities can open. And I think maybe the possession game too. The more Vancouver Whitecaps have the ball, obviously less time for LAFC, for Bwanga and Son to have the retain the ball possession there. So I think possession is going to be a key factor too to keep LAFC off the ball, especially with their dynamic duo.
So with that being said, you said that like Angelo touched on the correct points. What do you see the holes in your defense? I know we're talking about offense, but
Yeah.
we all know about your
No,
offense, right? So where are the holes? Like, what are you worried about?
I'm very worried about set pieces, and if you saw the Austin series, you saw how we lost the game in Austin. I'm sorry, the game before the series. So the lapses are always happening in set pieces for us. The other part is early crosses into the box. Those usually lead to positive experiences for the opposing team. So again, yeah, if you have a challenge in midfield and you're able to access the wings fast and send an early cross, early service, those tend to be a vulnerability of LAFC. And I disagree with having the ball too much against the LAFC. You look statistically, the less we have the ball, the more it smash the other teams. It is incredible. So not having the ball actually helps this team. And it's very much a coin of this coaching staff to not want the ball and allow you to make a mistake in midfield, so then the Nibuanga can cue in counter-tracking or the technicality of Sonny to do a monster.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there. LFC are very efficient offense, and maybe they don't have as good midfielders as they do the forwards, but those midfielders are capable of getting the ball to those key players there. So the next category is substitution options. Which team has the stronger players they can turn to either get a goal from the bench, replace a player, keep the energy, maybe hold a lead late in the game? So, just for context, we'll go to LAFC first. In their closeout game against Austin, the players that came off the bench were Tafari, Smolyakov, Moran, Chenier, Ebobasi, and some notable and new subs as well include Amaya and Martinez. So, what did those players bring to LAFC from the bench?
It's insane depth, right? So any of these guys, I would say with the exception of maybe one or two, would be starters in any other rosters in MLS. So you see how deep of a player LAFC can be. And the thing is, a lot of these guys I haven't been here for too long. So some of them are still assimilating the game, but they've been contributors, and this roster is much stronger than it was 2, 3, 4 months ago before all these arrivals. I mentioned some of these names before. Tronier been great. He's been a starter in most of these games, with the exception of a few. With the arrival of Jailson, it's been back and forth between the two. So Martinez lost some positioning. With the uprising of Nathan Ordaz, and Ebobisi, a guy that has been serviceable for us, is really just playing like late minutes for us. If he's not going to be playing this weekend or next weekend, whenever they play again. Let's not even talk about that. But whenever they play, he probably won't play unless the game has been decided already, because he's there for only emergencies or injuries, and LAFC is very healthy right now. So very deep team. LAFC has a lot of options, even how to compose the starting 11 to adapt, and he's seen a little variations here and there. But I don't know if I would go even as a guy like Amaya. I would prefer these guys not to play anymore. I do believe from this point forward, it's almost like baseball. You're playing a much tighter roster, right? I'm sorry, like basketball. You play a much tighter roster in the playoffs, and you know the guys can decide for you, and you don't deviate too much from that.
Abram, if you have told me that with Abobasi going to LAFC and Pellegrino going to San Diego, that Abobasi would be the less productive of the two, at one point I would probably be surprised by that. But of course, it's different situations. It's much harder to be Abobasi playing behind Son and Buanga from perhaps Pellegrino, where he's gotten a bit more opportunities because Chucky Lozano's missed time. But Bobasi, he got what he wanted. He got a fresh start a little bit, and he's on a team that's still competing in mid-November.
Yeah, I mean, these are both players that I was frustrated with completely. I was kind of ready for them to be done. Obviously, great people have met them both individually. Especially Bobasi, I really love who he is as a person, but as a player is very frustrating. Off topic a little bit, just really quick. We haven't had a quick specific episode for a minute, so people in the Discord are like, "Oh, we let Pellegrino go. How could we do that?" And like, look what he's doing now, right? But then it's at the erasure of the fact that he missed like 6 1v1s in one game. Like he's was not in good form for us, and that we just have to accept that as a reality. He wasn't gonna be that guy for us. He needed that change of scenery, and that's what the case for a lot of people. Obobisi, he's not having a bad time. I wouldn't say. He's very much the backup, and he's doing his thing over there. But he needed to change the scenery. Just I don't know him. I haven't asked him, but I would say he might be happier where he is now.
Yeah, I think so too. Pellegrino will definitely be on Minnesota's scouting report, which is something that we wouldn't have imagined seeing before, but good on him. But some options that hopefully wouldn't miss six one-on-one chances. The likes of Vancouver Whitecaps' bench, you have some young players, 23-year-old Jay Nelson, who you mentioned, 22-year-old Kenji Cabrera, and especially 18-year-old Ryan Elumi. He's been a revelation, but also with him still working his way back, he could be a very dangerous sub. Ryan Gold, Angelo, how do you feel about the players coming off the bench for the Whitecaps?
Yeah, it's funny. A year with all these injuries, it's kind of not a blessing in disguise, but they've had to dip to their Vancouver Whitecaps 2 team to bring some of these young guys up, and they performed not too bad. But yeah, Ryan Gold, like I said, if he could come off the bench, it would be a miracle. It'd be great. Like, I think it would be a big difference. 2024, he had 15 goals, 12 assists. The year before, 11 goals, 13 assists. They're almost all-star numbers. Any team that's going to miss their all-star midfielder, they're going to be at a disadvantage. So having him in the lineup is going to be huge. You mentioned Kenji Cabrera. What a sneaky little pickup during the summer transfer window. I'd never heard of this kid. He's been called up to the Peruvian national team, which is quite awesome. I enjoy when players off like your team get called up to the national team. It's experience for them to play with professionals, big moments, this and that. So just to see him excel I think he's started like 8 games with the Whitecaps. He's got 2 goals for them this year. So he's fitting not too bad. And I love his playmaking ability. He's a speedster on the pitch too. That's what I like about how Vancouver kind of built this team this year. They seem to be a lot faster this year and more kind of high pressing attacking. They don't sit back, like they're not playing to lose, like they play to win. It doesn't matter if you're down a man or whatever. There's maybe the odd time they're gonna get caught getting a bit comfortable on a lead, but for the most part, this team loves to attack. So yeah, and if Brian White, if there's a miracle, he could come back too. That's 16 goals coming off the bench. If he's able to find 45 minutes and just tough it out, potentially be the last game of the season for the Whitecaps, right? So I don't know how serious their injuries are between Gold and White. They're two, besides Muller, their best players, but I have a feeling they're going to see the pitch. They have to see the pitch, especially say if LAFC's got a late lead. They're probably going to throw them. They got to come on the pitch, even if they only have one leg. They got to find a way on the pitch to make a difference.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose at this point. As long as he's not in too much pain, just go for it. It's a very close call between these two benches, but I'm thinking, especially, it might kind of work against the Whitecaps in this category. If Gold does recover well, he might even start, in which case with that possibility, I think for the players likely to be on the bench, I give the edge to LAFC just because they have more diversity and options for a variety of different roles. But then that just leaves to one last person each from these teams, very important people, the coaches. So we'll turn it over to Angelo. You've talked a little bit about the difference between Sartini and Sorensen, but what do you think has been some of his strong suits as a coach and maybe some of his questionable decisions?
Definitely a strong suit. Probably touched on early. He he's got the players to play for him. This team is starting 11, like you could say, has like been in a blender all year, just due to injuries, rotating starting 11 different players. So I think just him having a pulse of knowing who to start, when to play. They've had a grueling schedule. They've had to play extra games of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the Canadian Championship. So I think he's managed the bench well with squad rotations, and I think he's instilled the confidence in his team. Like I said, to never give up attitude. Like this team, just with the adversity of how much man games they lost with to their rosters, like I I'm not crazy like you, Ivan. I don't watch all the other 29 teams. I don't know what their injury situations are, but from a close, like just the stuff that Vancouver dealt with was just amazing. And especially last year, Vancouver, I think maybe just before the summer break, not summer break, but like a summertime, they were flirting like in a top three, top five position in the Western Conference. And then they just started to trend downward. I don't know if that was fatigue or mental fatigue or whatnot, but Sorensen, I don't know, he seemed, like I said, he seemed to bring a new attitude to the squad. And now with the addition of Thomas Muller, it's almost like you have a second coach there, because every time you see Muller on the pitch, he's directing everybody, and the players seem you're obviously gonna listen to Thomas Muller, one of the greatest German soccer players, right? So it's almost like having two coaches on for the Whitecaps for them, with Muller on the pitch and then Sorensen on the sideline. And I would say a weakness. I that's a tough one. I'm not saying he's the perfect coach, but I guess you could say, I would say almost maybe set pieces, just like LAFC. I don't know, I've noticed this year too, like with Vancouver, they've been burned on set pieces, um, which I don't know if you could blame him on, but like it's just
It's a
maybe the
pattern.
way they set up or whatever. But other than that, I couldn't. I
It's
like
tough
I said, I'm
because it's
not
one
saying
of
he's
the
a
best
perfect
seasons
coach,
in
but
Whitecaps history. So
yeah. So yeah, he could be one of the best coaches ever if we could get past LAFC. So it's kind of hard to find something to fault him for now.
yeah, so it's something that when you watch a 34 game season, there's going to be a few gripes here and there with coaches, be it with substitutions, tactics, certain worrying trends. Even when you have a MLS Cup champion on your roster, that's the one thing San Jose Earthquakes and LAFC have in common. Bruce Arena, championship coach, but this is a coach that has won within the last few years. The mayor of Hanover is now the key of the city to LA, Steve Cherundolo. Celso, what do you make of his coaching?
Yeah, well, he's on his way out. Like as we know, he's been already announced to leave at the end of the year to not be a coach of LAFC anymore. So that's the number one thing we've been dealing with here as an LAFC fan base for several months, and it was a big topic of conversation before Sonny arrived, who was going to replace Chief Gerondolo. So, as I mentioned earlier, another guy on the bench is Mark Dos Santos. Mark Dos Santos was a former head coach for the Vancouver Whitecaps, which was left LAFC to take the reins of that team and take them to the promised land. And now he has an opportunity to go back to Vancouver and beat that team that once maybe made him into a head coach for the first time. And guess what? He is the apparent heir to the throne when it comes to next year in 2026. And make no mistake, this is his schematics. This is his X and O's that we're watching there every single weekend. Steve Cherundolo is a great motivator, and I'm sure he has a lot to do with the design of the lineups and everything else. But the tactician and the person giving the instructions in the players' ears, that is Mark Dos Santos. And, it's been a little bit of a coach by committee between the two of them and Razov, the third, again, member of this commission staff. So Steve Cherundolo's system, just to break it down, it's based, as I said, playing without the ball, a lot of pressing, Gengen pressing, very German of him to do so, high pressing, asking his offensive players to have a defensive role in this game and trying to essentially get the ball to his offensive players as fast as possible. But he wants efficiency. He wants plays decided fast. He doesn't want a lot of carrying. There's no natural 10 playing the ball, and most of the passing happens in the back. So that's Steve Cherundolo in a nutshell. He invites you to play and tries to exploit you in the counter-striking, making sure that he's pressing as much as he can. But I really am captivated by this side show that is Mark Dos Santos going back to Vancouver and potentially being the winner of that position once the season ends. So I'm really watching every angle of this. As we all thought it was going to be Razov, and all news are saying that he's the lead candidate to get this job next year.
Yeah, so that leads to the toughest decision now, because I came into this thinking I was going to give the edge to Steve Cherundolo because he has the pedigree, he has the playoff experience, he won the MLS Cup, and that's the biggest measure of success in this league. But with Mark Dos Santos having such a big role, and because of how transformative Sorensen's impact has been for the Whitecaps, I guess I'll go with Sorensen then. So overall, it's still 3-2. So it's a testament to how evenly matched these two teams are across the board: coaching, players, tactics, talent, and I'd be thrilled if it's a 32 scoreline as a neutral. But now we'll do a little bit of a lightning round game before we get into our closing thoughts. So I'm going to give you the name of a club, and you'll give me the first word that comes to mind. 6 of these 7 clubs are still in the playoffs. Inter Miami. Angelo.
Potent.
Celso.
Pistolero.
Perfect. All right, and then we'll alternate. So Celso, you'll go first for the next one. And welcome back, Abram. We just started the word association game. We already went through Inter Miami. So, Abram, you're right on time. First word that comes to mind when you think of Inter Miami, if you want to join us in the game.
I think of pink, probably.
There we go. Pink. Very pink. Perfect. So we're going to go to Celso first, then Philadelphia Union.
Utilitarian.
Okay. Angelo?
They're tough. Like, I don't want to say they're scrappy. They're just, I would say they're lethal.
Okay. Abram?
Fighters.
Okay. We'll start with Abram next. FC Cincinnati.
Kubo. I don't know if we're supposed to say the players, but that's what I think of first.
Angelo?
It's not one word, but Jekyll and Hyde, just because they could look like the best team one week, and the next week they could be losing embarrassing fashion. So kind of Jekyll Hyde team for me.
Evander.
Celso?
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun, but Evander right. For sure.
Perfect. Okay, and then we'll go Celso, and then we'll go counterclockwise for this last Eastern Conference team, New York City FC.
Yankee Stadium. That's 2 words. Baseball. There you go.
Yeah, I want to say they're kind of rugged. I don't know. They don't get blown out too often. I wanted their series against Charlotte, their high-scoring team. They didn't give them much, so I would say they're kind of a rugged team.
Okay, so it'll just be ping-pong between you two to finish off this segment. Minnesota United, Angelo.
Disappointment, and I just say that because I like to bet on MLS, and I cannot win when I play a game with Minnesota United. If I pick them to win, they lose. If I pick them to lose, they win. So they're just a disappointment to me, but they are fun. They are a talented team, but personally, they're a disappointment to me.
Low key.
That's a good one there. All right. And then San Diego FC, Celso.
Newbies.
I was gonna say that, but I'll say St. Louis FC 2.0.
That works. We'll count that as one word.
Yeah, I mean they're vulnerable because of the fact they're newbies, and that was what I meant.
And then last but not least, of course, Angelo, San Jose Earthquakes.
Up and coming.
All right. Salsa?
Relocation. You guys are never gonna have me here again.
Not again. Unless it's the Warriors relocation. No, I'm kidding. As much as I love Oakland, Oakland can keep their roots. San Jose Earthquakes can keep them in San Jose.
Just kidding.
Fair enough, though. All right. So, my closing thoughts. I like to end each game analysis with my criteria of this team will win if this happens. I feel like the Vancouver Whitecaps will win if they can disrupt the passing lane between Sun and Buwanga, because you cannot double team either one of them. But
No.
if you can at least cut off the supply line and make them go through someone else first, then that can slow down their attack a little bit. And then the way that LAFC can win is that I think if they score 3 goals, that's a wrap. LAFC are very much capable of scoring goals in bunches, but Vancouver Whitecaps are talented enough and strong enough defensively to hold them within 2 or less, where it can be a 2-2 tie or it could be a 2-1 win the other way. So I think that 3 is the magic number for Whitecaps, but it's also the doom number for Vancouver Whitecaps. I mean, it's a doom number for most teams not named LAFC or Inter Miami. But anything else that you're most excited about for this game, Angelo? Final thoughts?
Well, a bit of history, I guess, for the Whitecaps because they've never been to a Western Conference final. This is their only third time in a semifinal, 2015 and 2017. So it's been a while. So, yeah, I'm looking. It's going to be apparently BC Place is going to be sold out, so it'll be nice to have over 50,000 there on their side. Hopefully, they can make a bit of a difference too. And yeah, I think just to add to the key to the game for a Whitecaps perspective, I think getting that first goal. I know stating the obvious, but that first goal is going to be so huge because if the Whitecaps are down 1-0 and chasing a game, that's going to be bad news for Vancouver. Even though they have Blackman on the back end, defender of the year, but they're going to have to open up the lanes, Vancouver, and they could get easily exposed by a high potent LAFC side. So I think the thing I'm most worried about with so many things that could go wrong in a game is Vancouver getting that first goal. If they get that, I'm not saying it's going to be a guaranteed win, but I'll help my stress 50% at least to go from there. But yeah, that first goal is going to be a massive, massive difference maker, I think, going into the game on the 22nd. So we'll see.
And lastly, Angelo, where can people find you and your content?
Well, I'm on Twitter, if you call it X, one or the other. I'm at Pat's Picks. I'm just usually tweeting soccer stuff. I love following Serie A, MLS, CPL. Just kind of a soccer junkie. Just love it all, even though I don't have much knowledge on all the hundreds of leagues out there. It's almost like a full-time job to follow. But then, yeah, just as a part-time gig, I do Liga MX and MLS betting previews for WSNsports. Just a sports betting website. You could go on there. You want to find any free picks of any type of sports league across North America or a Mexican soccer or European soccer, Premier League or Champions League. That's the website to follow. And yeah, that's about it. And then if I don't get a last word in, I just want to say appreciate your guys' time and thanks for having me on, Ivan.
Yep. Thank you for joining us, Angelo. Forza Roma. And also, please gamble responsibly if you do. And then lastly, Celso, what's something you're looking forward to in this match, LAFC versus Vancouver? And I see your account is on the screen there at Section 128 LAFC, but what you got coming out for us there?
So like two-parter, right? Let's talk about the game first. Look forward to a trip there. I've never been to BC Place. It's gonna be our first visit to Vancouver, and I'm gonna be covering that game in person, not only for Section 128, which is the podcast that Eric and I host, all about LAFC. It's a live weekly show that we do, but I am an amateur journalist as well, and I do publish articles about Major League Soccer. So I really look forward to just covering Son versus Muller in North America. It's not something I ever thought about being able to do, not only because this is an amateur thing I do, amateur gig that I take on, but also the fact that we have two of the most prolific footballers of our generation playing for a spot in the conference finals. So very, very exciting matchup. I think, outside of a Messi versus whoever wins this game matchup, this is a dream for our league to see and watch. So, can't wait to see it in person and register the moment. And yes, thank you so much for for having me here. It's a pleasure talking to you guys a little bit about LA and LAFC and what we've been up to here. And it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Hey, if you're a batting man, huh? So definitely both teams will score, and the average of goals will probably go over, because if you look at the away situation for LAFC, both of those averages from goals over and against are over 1.5. So I'm thinking we're gonna see some goals here for this conference semifinal, as they call it.
Yeah, I can't disagree. And the way you tilted the game, like Son versus Mahler, it's almost. I think this is almost be a heavyweight matchup versus like the MLS final. Like, I think this is. I wouldn't say like this is the final, but like just the two superstars on each side of the pitch there. Like, it's just like you said, it's amazing. Like 5 years ago, I would have never imagined like these two playing against each other in MLS. So you said it best, Celso. And yeah, I'm just looking at the like last head-to-head matches here. Yeah, it's all been high-scoring games. So if you love high-scoring soccer, even if you're just a neutral fan, I think this is the game to tune into.
Yep.
And I mean, you're
this
letting two
matchup,
goals to the. I'm sorry to say that, but I was looking at the Canadian Cup. 2 goals to Vancouver FC, 2 goals to the Sounders, 1 goal to Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. It looks. Let's see what kind of defensive posture we see from Vancouver, because I think it's going to dictate the pace of the game. And playoff games seem to be tighter, but I have a feeling that if someone scores early, it can turn into a goal fest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A little bit of trivia on the way out. The last time Muller versus Son would have faced off would have been the 2018 World Cup, where Santos Correa pulled off the upset against Germany, gracias Correa, because Mexico were able to move on to the next round.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Wow.
Before that,
I thought
they
they would
got
have been in
acquainted
Champions League.
Bayern versus Leverkusen.
Wow. Interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time here. We're going to monitor this situation with this game in particular now that we've covered it. We're an hour deep into this, so for those of you that are Quakes fans or just MLS fans, I hope that we were able to entertain you when this comes out during the international break. Continue to watch the MLS Cup playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun, regardless of who comes out on top. And at least we know it won't be the Galaxy. And as always, thank you for listening and watching. Hit like, subscribe, follow us all on social media. Links will be on the description. Go Quakes. Best of luck to the Whitecaps and LAFC. Have a good rest of your day.